Ricky Cage, thank you so very much for joining me for So Zoom In. It's such a pleasure to see you again. You're in India, so thank you for this time travel experience. So you look fantastic. I'd like to think you're really happy. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing very good, and thank you so much for having me on this for this conversation. And yeah, it's about 12:30 a.m. in the morning
Oh, wow.
in India. Yeah, but that's a good time for me actually.
You're a music maker. You're this incredible creator. You won a Grammy in 2015 for The Winds of Samsara, another beautiful new age album. And this year you are nominated for another Grammy for Divine Tides, which you did with Stewart Copeland. I love The Police, by the way. What an incredible adventure. I would love to learn how that came about and how you went about doing that.
So after Winds of Samsara, I've always wanted to make another album, another sort of like a new age album, which is my particular genre of music, somewhere between at the intersection of new age and world music. And so I had a lot of thoughts and ideas in my head, but because of the kind of touring that I was doing during those days, like for example, in 2019, I did 70 concerts in 13 countries. So it's been a very stressful touring time for me all the way from Winds of Samsara to now. I mean, to the pandemic. And so that's why all these thoughts and ideas just remain as thoughts and ideas. And of course, I would put down a couple of recordings at my studio, but never had the time to actually sit down and concentrate and actually create an album. And the pandemic hit in 2020. So that presented itself as an opportunity for me to actually get down to recording this album. And I felt that I needed a collaborator on this album. I needed, I needed that energy. I needed a virtuoso musician to join me on this journey. And I thought of Stewart Copeland. So I reached out to him and I asked him whether he'd like to join me on this journey. And I sent him bits and pieces of the music. And luckily he loved it because he grew up in Asia and in the Middle East. So he always had this need to actually get into those forms of music and those kind of scales and and the rags and the melodies and the instruments. And also for the last 30 to 40 years of his touring, he had collected so many of these, ethnic and traditional percussion instruments from all over the world. And even though he loved playing with these instruments, he never had the opportunity to actually record them professionally. So for him, he just jumped into this project and it was an amazing journey for a year. And we made this album together, speaking to each other almost every single day. And and that's how Divine Tides came about.
So, I love you took the initiative and you put it out there. And I think that's just so beautiful, that you did that. And look, something absolutely incredible came of it. All right. So when I read what Rolling Stone wrote about your album, what did they, okay, I wanted to get this right. It's a medium to appreciate the reason behind our existence. Appreciate the reason behind our existence. And when I was listening to the music, yeah, it's like I'm alive. And this music makes you feel alive. And I think that's one thing that these past couple of years have really made people reflect upon. It's like, who am I? And I don't mean to sound new agey, because I mean, this music, people think, well, I don't think people fully understand what new age music is, but it really captures the essence of aliveness in the moment of now. And that is beautiful. And I greatly appreciate that. So you are going to be, okay, first of all, I have to backtrack. What got you into new age music?
So, it wasn't the genre that came first. It was the music that came first, and then I realized that to market it, I need the music fitted best into the new age genre. So that's why I classify my music as that, because nowadays, even more so than in the past, that in order to market your music and in order to describe your music, you need to slot it into a certain genre or a certain category. And that is why our category is basically new age world music at the intersection of these two genres of music. But the thing is that for the last few years, for the last 7 or 8 years, the only kind of music that I make is about the environment, about sustainability, about positive social impact. And in fact, I've completely stopped doing any form of commercial music or pop music because I believe that music needs to have a purpose. And my purpose is that because these are things that I feel very, very strongly about through my work with the United Nations and through my work as an ambassador with them. So I've always said that, when it comes to, whatever, saving the planet or saving the environment, we're never actually saving the planet because the planet is going to always constantly rotate around its axis. It's going to revolve around the sun. And, and whether we humans exist or not, the planet is always going to survive, so we're not actually saving the planet at all. What we are trying to do by protecting the environment and by protecting species and protecting the ecological balance and ensuring that climate change ensuring that we mitigate the effects of climate change is basically saving our own species from extinction. That's all we are doing, So that's what I try to showcase through my music, that it's all about us humans and we have to appreciate our own existence. And unless we appreciate our own existence, as Rolling Stone said, the thing is that, we'll never be able to protect our surroundings. And the key to our survival is to ensure we have healthy forests, healthy ecosystems. We do not pollute the atmosphere. We do not waste our water. We do not cover our planet in plastic trash. So these things are so important for our own survival because we're not saving the planet. We're saving ourselves from extinction.
Right. Oh, that is so beautiful. And the way it starts with one person. And one thing
exactly.
And the music, when I was listening to it, I just felt like the universe within every tone, every sound just felt like it was part of this whole magnificent beingness, which we are. We are that. And I don't think people realize that, especially these past couple of years, which has given people to either a chance to completely evolve or, recreate themselves. And I'm just so excited about this new music you're doing because it's so much more than just music. It is so much more. So I am so proud of you. All right, so you are going to be touring. You're going to be performing in Houston, Texas in March. Will you be touring in other places in the United States as well, or?
So I'm going to be my first. So I'll be traveling first to Houston, and I'll be performing at the Wartime Center on the 12th of March at Houston, which is a Saturday. And then so that's a publicly available concert where anybody can buy tickets and they can show up at the concert. And then after that, I'll be doing a couple of private concerts in a few cities like Seattle, New York, Philadelphia, Boston, and also we're talking about Atlanta's, Washington, D.C. So they're going to be about at least another 6 or 7 cities, but those are going to be private concerts. And I'm going to be staying back right up to the Grammys, which is happening on April 3rd. So that's why. So I'm going to be staying back that entire month in America. So it's going to be quite amazing because in the last 2 years, I haven't traveled outside of India. As I mentioned, in 2019, so many concerts. And my last concerts were in March 4th. I remember I'd come down to New York and I did a concert there. And then I flew to Germany, to Bonn. And I did a concert on the 6th of March over there. And then I flew back to India. And suddenly I was shocked to see the airport in India that had all these lines for people who have come in from different countries. And some people had to go into quarantines and things like that. So it was quite shocking for me. And then from then onwards, I was completely grounded in India. But then again, even though it's very sad for me that I couldn't do concerts because I absolutely love doing concerts and I do so many of them. But the album Divine Tides would have never happened if there was no lockdown because I would not have found the time. And Stewart Copeland would have never collaborated with me if there was no pandemic, So
see, great things happen no matter what, right? It's just that energy force that just comes out. I think that's so beautiful. I love when people do that. It's like, yes. So, all right. So you made this album in 2 different countries.
Yes.
Right. And then your other musicians, they're also from around the world. What was that process like of, bringing everyone together like that without being in person together?
So this is something that actually is not new to me when it comes to the pandemic, because even my previous albums, I've always collaborated with musicians from around the world. Like, for example, I did an album called Shanti Samsara in 2016. Yeah. That was an album for the climate change conference in Paris, which happened, the COP21. So that album had 500 musicians from 40 countries. So it would have been impossible for me to travel to all those countries to actually record those musicians. So that is what gave me a huge learning experience of collaborating with musicians from different parts of the world. Of course, it always feels nice to be in the same room with a musician. It's a completely different experience, but one can manage to get a good working relationship just through the internet and over the phone and over Zoom, and and them recording at another studio and just sending you in the files. The pandemic also opened up a whole lot of other opportunities where musicians really needed to learn how to be completely self-sufficient. They needed to engineer their own work. They needed to know how to use the computer and their DAWs, how to use a microphone, and record stuff completely themselves without any external help and without going to another studio. So you had all these various things that singers would do. Like they would have like a closet, and they would fill up the closet with blankets, and they would put their necks and their heads into the closet and record with a microphone so that it would be as soundproofed and as good an acoustic environment as possible. And so you had all these different ways and ideas that musicians and singers used to actually record themselves. But that's how we did it. We did it by the old methods that we had already perfected of recording remotely. And when it came to Stewart and me, what we had to do is that, because he lives in Los Angeles, I live in India, and and his AM is exactly my PM, because it's almost 12 hours apart, the time difference. So that was a challenge, because I realized very quickly that I needed to sync my sleep timings with his. So that we wouldn't waste a whole day in just waiting for emails from each other. So that's when I decided that I'm going to sleep in the daytime, and I'm going to stay awake at night, so that that we can interact and we can quickly send each other feedback. And that's what I did for the entire duration of the creation of the album.
Wow, that is so incredible. All right, I'm just so blown away. How many different musicians did you use on your album? Because there's so many different types.
So quite a few musicians, if you count the orchestras, because we also recorded with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, and we also recorded with the Soweto Gospel Choir and with Lady Smith Black Mambazo from South Africa, and a bunch of other. So I would say, like, if you look at in terms of soloists, there are about 40 soloists on the album, and total number of musicians must be like easily about 150 or 200.
So what is your process like when you come up with this music? Do you ever just like brainstorm and just start playing, like jamming? Or so what gives you the inspiration to create a certain song?
So everything starts from the computer and my keyboard. So I'm heavily into technology. So everything starts from there, where I create a complete mock-up of the song. In the case of Divine Tides, I can give you that example. So in the case of Divine Tides, what would happen is that I would create a mock-up of parts of songs and certain hook lines. And I would do that completely on the computer and send that to Stewart. Stewart would add his compositional bits, and he would sometimes even recompose the melody, and he would send it back to me. And we would do a couple of back and forths that way. And then once we're happy with the overall structure of a song, so that itself would sound pretty good, good enough to even release, because the sounds that we would get out of the computer were really good. The samples that we would use are pretty good. And then we would start replacing every single instrument that was generated on the computer with real instruments. So what we would do is that, like, let's say if we've played a flute on the using a computer sample, then what we would do is that we would bring in a flute player into the studio, and then we would give a complete free hand to the flute player, just using the sample as a guideline. And the flute player would just add magic to it, because I believe that if you do not restrict them, then you're not limited to your own imagination. They bring in something absolutely amazing, and sometimes they can completely transform your composition to a level where which absolutely shocks you that your composition can actually sound this good, with the kind of variations and the kind of improvisation that they bring in. So that's what I try to do, and that's what even Stewart does. He loves musicians who improvise a lot, and that's what even I do. I love working with musicians who improvise a lot.
Oh, that's so beautiful. What a collaborative process. And that's what art is.
Exactly.
It starts with one, but then it becomes a collaboration. And it goes back to the environment also. It goes back to one and then being part of the collaboration. So I think that's just so beautiful that you allow that process to happen. And obviously something magical came of it. All right, so these videos you did, they are top notch. They are beautiful. When did you make the videos for each song?
So the videos, I'd actually started filming the videos towards just before the pandemic, actually, because what I did was that there were certain, as I mentioned, there were some ideas which I'd actually put down on a recording. So some of those ideas were before Stewart actually came into the picture. So what I would do is that, like, for example, the song on the Himalayas. So that particular song, what happened was that I was doing a concert at the Himalayas. And so I decided that I'm going to film at least the musicians, in the Himalayas, because even though the song is not complete, at least their solos are there. So we'll just film those solos at the Himalayas so that tomorrow, whenever I actually have the time to complete the song, at least we have that footage of the musicians. So we actually did that, and that found its way into the album. Then the other videos, we had some amazing filmmakers from National Geographic, from the BBC, from all these other, major natural history production houses all over the world, who are people who are friends of mine, people who admire my music, and I admire their work. I've composed music for their films. So that way we created sort of like a panel of filmmakers, and who would do things for really cheap, and who would put in their own energies and their resources into making these videos. And we sent them around the world during the pandemic to actually film. And Stewart was filmed at his studio in Los Angeles, and I was filmed at my studio in Bangalore, and we just put the whole thing together.
Oh, that's beautiful. You are such a magic maker. You make beautiful things happen. That's incredible. You do so much. So I'm just happy. I'm just so happy we met in 2015. I'm just so glad that you agreed to this. I want people to listen to your music. I want them to feel it, to really just feel it. It is beautiful. It is just so beautiful. And it's something that that I believe can really inspire people. I felt very inspired by it. So what happens next? Okay, you're gonna win. I just know you're gonna win. It's that amazing. It's like, yes, people need to hear this. So what's your next plan? What's next for you?
So multiple things, actually. So first of all, I'm going to continue promoting Divine Tides. So I've decided that I'm going to continue promoting Divine Tides till the end of this year, because I believe that there's a lot that can be promoted. And it's not a pop album which has its maximum potential only the first 2 or 3 months and then later on fizzles out. It's something that can be sustained for a longer time, and newer people will constantly keep discovering the music. So I'm going to continue spending a lot of energy and time in promoting the album, and so is Stewart. Then in addition to that, Stewart and me are going to be touring for sure sometime around the end of this year. We're going to be touring USA and Europe as a sort of like a Divine Tides tour, doing music from Divine Tides and bringing all these musicians together. But in addition to that, there are 2 projects which I'm really proud of. One project is known as Women of the Record. So it's if I may just quickly describe that project. So the thing is that in the early 1900s, the British came to India. We were under the British rule in India. So we were under the British rule right up to 1947. So in the early 1900s, the British came into India with the first gramophone recorders. And they wanted to record Indian classical music singers across India, across the length and breadth of India. And the men were against this because they felt that nobody's going to show up at our concerts if we actually record and use this new technology. And there was this rumor that if the men sing into these gramophones and they record their voices, a part of their voice is going to be captured into that, and their voice is going to get worse and worse over time. So, but the women realized that all this is nonsense, and we are going to record. So all the way from from the early 1900, from 1901 or 1902, all the way to the 1938 or 1939, it was only women who were recording, and they became superstars internationally. Especially in India, they became huge stars, demanding huge amounts of money for these recordings. And then all these kings and queens in India would call them for these large concerts, and they would pay them huge amounts of money, book entire trains for their entire entourages to come to their palaces and things like that. And then towards the end of the 1930s, the men realized that, oh my God, we made a huge mistake. So then what they did was that they did a couple of things. One thing is that they started spreading rumors about these women, saying that they are prostitutes, and and they're selling their bodies along with their voices and things like that. They did all of that. They had a huge smear campaign against the women. Second thing that they did was that they made the rumor is that they had this huge campaign where they tried to destroy every single record of the women across India so that their history would be completely forgotten. And the women were forgotten. They were completely forgotten. So a friend of mine and me for the last 10 years, we traveled the length and breadth of India to all these small rural areas, these waste shops and these thrift shops and things like that. And we collected about more than 2,000 of these records, and we put ads in papers so that people would sell us their records if they had some old records from their great grandparents' homes and things like that. So we put together this collection and we identified 40 women. And we put that together. We digitized that in the best and the highest quality. And we did this book with Penguin Random House Publishers with a 3 CD set with these 40 women. And we just released that project. And now I'm going to start promoting that project. So that project is just to relive these extremely brave and these amazing women's music across the world and to try to get people to listen to them. So that's one project. And the second project I'll just quickly tell you is that it's about this group of people known as bowls in India. They're known as singing bowls. And these people are people who, it's a 1,000-year-old tradition. So 1,000 years back, these people suffered from being from a very lower caste in India during the peak of the caste system in India. So they were constantly stepped upon, nobody cared about them and things like that. So they wanted to get outside the confines of the caste system. So they moved out of religion completely. And they decided that our pathway to God is through music, through our voices. So they did not keep any cash with them so that nobody would bother them and nobody would steal from them, nobody would kill them. So what they would do is that they would sing for their food. They would sing outside somebody's house for their food. They would sing for a place to stay in the night, and they would wander from village to village. So they were nomads. And some of them have carried on the tradition till date. So it's a living tradition, but it's almost going extinct. So the UNESCO had called it intangible heritage of humanity. So for the last 4 years, I've been documenting these bowls by finding them wherever they are, because they don't have cell phones, they don't have these things. So finding them where they are, filming them and filming their performances. So we have about 40 or 50 performances of these amazing bowls. And we're going to be putting these out so that, they go into posterity and, and people do not forget them. So that is the idea.
Those are both beautiful ideas. And I can see both of those as movies. I mean, easily. So if you need a scriptwriter, I can, we can talk.
No, I've been looking at your IMDb credits of films and all of that stuff. It's quite amazing.
I am just so proud of you of what you do. And these creative ideas that really will mean so much to so many people, I'm just, wow. I'm just so proud of you. And I'm going to keep saying that because I'm so excited. I love it when people have these ideas and they take action on them and they start creating, and you really generate this amazing flow that just feeds so many of their souls, and I don't think people realize that, when one person is, doing, it's not just about him or her, it's about, it brings in everyone. That energy just uplifts everyone. And that's what you do. And that I get so excited with that, Ricky. So yes. All right. So are you doing this concert? Okay. So in March, when you're in Houston, is it just going to be you, or is it going to be you and Stewart, or what music will you be playing then?
Yeah, so it's Stewart is not joining me for that concert because he's going to be busy touring with his group, that is the Police Deranged Tour. So it's a fun tour that he has where he's written all the Police songs for a full symphony orchestra. Wow. And so he plays drums with the orchestra and he travels around. So he's going to be playing with the Nashville Symphony around that time. And so we are doing this particular concert. So it's going to be my band from India and a few musicians from USA too. So 2 musicians from USA and about 6 musicians from India. And so it's going to be a nice world music concert. And we're going to be playing a few songs from Divine Tides too. And so it's going to be really exciting. And the other private concerts are also going to be quite similar to that.
Oh, that's wonderful. You just go for it. Yes, I love it. Do it. Go for it. Be it. Live it. Love it. And you do that. And Ricky, you are amazing. And I'm just so proud of you. All right. So I remember meeting your wife. She's beautiful, beautiful woman, beautiful soul. How is she doing?
She's doing very good, actually. She started her own fitness program, like in the sense that where she helps people get fit. And because she used to work with me for a very long time, like right up to about 2018, she used to manage my career. But then from 2018 onwards, it became very stressful for her to actually do that, because the amount of touring, the amount of traveling just quadrupled during that time. And so that is why she went to her next love, which is basically, like fitness and running and all of that stuff. She's very heavily into that right now.
Okay. Well, it's all about balance, right? Mind,
Yes.
body, spirit, got to keep that balance going. A lot of things.
Exactly.
So that's wonderful. All right. And so when you were traveling so much, would you have someone help you keep track of where you were and what was going on? Or did you pretty much do everything on your own?
No, I've got a team. I've got a wonderful team. So I've got one personal assistant who stays in Bangalore. So she's like she's got like a command center type thing. So she, like, if I need to respond to an email quickly, or if somebody's trying to reach me or whatever, so she does all of that. And I've got one chief of operation who travels with me everywhere. So he's the one who makes sure that everybody arrive on time and everybody does not miss their flights, because that's a huge problem we have with our musicians. And I hope they're not watching, but a lot of them miss their flights, so that, or they don't wake up on time and things like that. So he makes sure about all those things. And also he also helps me out with my accounting and my payments out and things like that. So he helps me do everything besides the music. And I've got even my music assistants, but they also stick around in Bangalore. They don't travel with me.
Well, I think that's one of the hardest things about being a creative type is the business side of it, because the business is a whole other mindset. So it's great that you have a team helping you.
True. And I actually don't enjoy the business part of it, but I enjoy the marketing part of it, because I've always believed that that if you absolutely love your art, marketing comes very easy to you. So it's just like, I don't have any children, nor am I going to have any children, but seeing my age, a lot of my friends have got younger children. And the thing is that they cannot stop talking about their children, showing me photographs of them and, how awesome my child is. So I feel the same way about my music. I cannot stop talking about my music, so marketing my music comes easy to me. And I always feel that, nowadays, being an independent musician, I feel that every musician needs to be an entrepreneur and learn how to market their own music. And I believe that if we ourselves cannot speak about our music in a favorable way, then other people are not going to do that. So I think it's important to love our own music and through that love, try to propagate it as much as possible and get as many people to listen to our music as possible.
Oh, exactly. Well, your music is on all the platforms, right?
Yes,
Apple, Spotify. Yeah, I'll definitely list out everywhere where it's at. How many different instruments do you play yourself?
Actually, my main instrument is the piano, and now, of course, the keyboard. So that's my main instrument. That's what I took my music education in. But the thing is that I play a variety of instruments, but just enough to, probably if somebody asks me to play at gunpoint, I'll be able to play it. Like I can play a few of the percussion instruments. I can play a little bit of the drums. I can play a little bit of the guitar. That kind of stuff, but only enough to save my life. That's about it.
Well, I love that you love what you do. That makes such a huge...
I do.
All right. I have to ask, because I know so many of my listeners out there, they don't really understand the concept of New Age.
Yes.
What does that mean to you?
So New Age music is basically, there are two ways to describe it. One is the musical part of it, which is usually music which is a little more ambient in nature and without too much of drums and, without like a driving groove and things like that. So that would be one way to describe it. But I think the more important way to describe it is that it's any kind of music with intention. So, like, for example, if you think about children's music. So what is children's music? It's not defined by genre, because it could be hip hop, it could be pop, it could be rock, it could be country, it could be folk, it could be jazz, it could be anything. But the intent is that this music has been created for children to listen to or children to consume. It's the same thing, I guess, with New Age music, where New Age music is music with intent. It could be about creating consciousness on the environment or spirituality, or it could even be religious music. It could be music for soothing people. It could be music for mindfulness. It could be music for relaxation. So I guess it's any kind of music which is defined by a strong intent and a positive intent.
I love that. That's beautiful. And I think that's how people need to live their lives, with intent. It's like, what is your intent? Even if it's just to be mindful in the moment. I'm just so excited for your music, and I'm so excited to see you again when you come to LA, which will be next year, right? To Los Angeles, or in 2023, or will you be?
Oh no, actually, I'm going to be in Los Angeles. I'm going to be in Los Angeles from the from the 27th to the 27th to the 31st of March. So
Okay.
I'm actually doing an event in Los Angeles on the 28th. So I'll send you an invite for that.
Oh, please do.
Yeah.
I mean, and your music just blows me away. And I have to say, I found myself dancing to your music. I was just, it's just like,
but that's the thing. But that's the thing about Divine Tides, because I just mentioned that New Age music does not have a driving groove, but we had a drummer at the helm of the album. So so Stewart did bring a lot of grooves into the album, and a lot of percussion grooves. But the thing is that the intent of the album did not change, and that's why it remains a New Age album.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. And it's just that energy, which is so uplifting and so positive, and it's so needed. I want people to start feeling that love for life, just really embrace it. And that the entire album does that. It embraces life. And that's exciting to me. And so thank you
so much.
All right. So I'm going to share all your links. Thank you so very much, Ricky. I look forward to seeing you here in the United States. I hope your concert is a total sellout, very successful in Houston. I wish I could be there. I mean, I love Houston.
We meet in Los Angeles, so I'll send you details on that, and hopefully we can meet in Los Angeles.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Thank you so much, and thank you for your time, and I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
I look forward to seeing you soon. Safe travels, and God bless you. Yes,
thank you.
So proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you, and all my very, very best wishes to you. Thank you so much for this wonderful, wonderful conversation.